Alrighty, good afternoon, everyone. You can see how little coffee I've had today. Um, Welcome back to our weekly updates of my presidential election model. Remember, at the beginning of every month, at least until we start getting more Senate polls, I'm just not going to bother with the Senate elections because y'all can see that's nothing's really changed just yet, and we just aren't getting enough polls. Anyway, um, as of 3:12, I just checked my polling uh, source, which is just 538's list of updated polls. The only approval rating poll I've gotten so far is Rasmussen, which does kind of boost Trump a little bit, but not significantly because last week was extremely good for Trump. There was a number of high quality pollsters such as ABC, Fox News, CNN, ABC. I think I maybe said them already. And there was one or two other high quality pollsters, Emerson, that had Trump within a point or two of 50%. So that is certainly one of the factors that kind of is boosting Trump right now. And the other thing is, we got some national polls recently, which one of them, I think this is still from last week. Because I haven't gotten a lot, I'm just going to collapse these at the end of the month. But as you can see, 2019, we've had a lot more polls than we did in any month in 2019, or 2020, sorry. Obviously, this is the the ABC one that was released today. I took only the registered or likely voter sample they used, and this was the average. Remember what I said about all that. As you can see, this is last week, and Donald Trump really improved last week. Um, and you can see there's a general trend of Donald Trump's approval rating increasing throughout this list, throughout this time frame, except for 2018. Because I only did the last couple of months in 18, and he actually had a really good final 28 in 2018. 2019, he dipped really hard in quarter one. Quarter two, he improved a decent amount, improved again, dipped hard, and then recovered. Slight dip, slight recovery, massive improvement, and we'll see what happens for the final week of January. Over the weekend, we got a poll in Iowa from, I forget who it was. I think it was ABC. And they found on average Donald Trump is leading by about 5% in the Hawkeye state, which is consistent with other polls I've seen out of the state. He was beating both Sanders and Biden. Sanders by a lot more than I think a lot of people would have anticipated. Biden by what you would expect for a poll showing Trump beating Biden. He was crushing Buttigieg and Klobuchar, and I think he was also crushing what's his name, Bloomberg. I don't even think they polled Yang. Um, so yeah, as we can see, it's kind of like the approval rating, aka mostly this type of stuff, but the approval rating here, yeah, he doesn't do well in that. But actual polling shows he's beating it by beating his polling figures by a decent amount. But his opponents aren't getting, they're losing a healthy amount off of the disapproval. So I think that indicates some manner of strength for Donald Trump and shows that it's relatively consistent whether or not it's relatively consistent with my theory that presidents outperform their approval rating polls. That at least if opinion polling of the race is to be believed. So that means certainly a state like Wisconsin or Michigan or Pennsylvania, certainly those states are in play. Virginia could be in play under the right circumstances, and they've had pretty much a perfect storm against the Democrats here in Virginia. With the blackface scandal, and then for both for both the governor and the attorney general, and of course the sexual assault scandal for the lieutenant governor, as well as them trying to turn Virginia's gun laws into something worse than New Jersey's gun laws. Maybe not that bad, but worse than California, because California doesn't even have one handgun a month limit, for a few reasons. Number one, that was actually struck down in Heller, or one of the Heller cases, because there were 3 Heller cases that were heard by SCOTUS. 3 or 4, I forget exactly how many. But one of them dealt with DC's one handgun a month ban, and that was struck down. So I don't know what the Democrats here in Virginia are thinking about when they're trying to pass that. Because if it was struck down by the Supreme Court, you really shouldn't be passing those laws. But, we'll see what happens with that and whether or not they go full out. Because apparently Virginia, the Democrats are also trying to amend one of the bills that's already in existence, which I don't like, which is already a law, and that's that I think it's like a crime. It's a crime to criticize any member of any public servant in Virginia, aka elected official. However, they're trying to amend it so that instead of being tried in the local courts where you get a jury of your peers, that you have to try it, that it has to be tried in Richmond under a jury of their peers. Which, by the way, just for the record, is almost exactly what one of the intolerable acts was, which was, I think there were certain trade violations or slander codes that England tried to force the colonies to have heard tried in an admiralty court in Nova Scotia rather than their local courts. And if that was an intolerable act, which was good enough for the colonists to go to war over, what does that mean for Virginians? Now, I'm under no circumstance saying we're at the point where we should be seriously considering, overthrowing the government here in Virginia, but the connections are a little, the similarities between the current administration in Richmond and Parliament and King George during the post 7 Years' War era. The connections and the similarities with the law, some of the laws they're trying to pass they're a bit spooky, if I'm 100% honest. Again, I'm not saying we should overthrow the government. As a matter of fact, I'm specifically saying don't overthrow it yet. Simply because I don't think it's a prudent course of action. We still have plenty of mechanisms here to prevent these unconstitutional and tyrannical laws from taking effect, and namely, I'm talking about the jury box, aka the court system, because SCOTUS is likely going to be in our favor, because SCOTUS has a very long history of protecting First Amendment rights, and they have a very long history, at least recently, of protecting the Second Amendment through Heller and a case out of Chicago and a case out of Massachusetts, and I'm talking about all the Heller decisions. And whether or not you want to view Miller versus U.S. in 1939 as a pro-Second Amendment ruling, I personally do, based off of the way I've read the law, read the decision, but it's tenuous because there are certainly anti-Second Amendment opinions that can be drawn from that, from the majority opinion in that case. And again, I definitely think that these laws that the Virginia government is trying to pass are way over the line. And I'm not just talking about the gun laws. I'm talking about trying to extend the term of the governor from 4 to 8 years, which I think is Well, let me put it this way: no truly free nation has ever had a government official or a law passed to extend their own terms in office. You see that happen in places like Venezuela and places where presidents serve for life. You don't see that in places like the United States. I obviously think a lot of basically every gun control law they're passing is unconstitutional. I have a complicated opinion on background checks, mostly because we technically already have them. However, at the same time, every definition of militia is included of able-bodied and sound mind. So there is a means to, as long as there is due process involved, which I believe a background check is a fair way to say that there is due process, because you do have to go through the courts, you do have to go through mental institutions that have to meet a fairly high standard for declaring someone mentally incompetent or felonious or anything like that. I think background checks can be justified. You just have to word them very precisely. I don't think Virginia's Universal Background Check bill does so. And of course, I very much against the law that that bans criticizing of a public servant or Virginia official. I think that's just almost the definition of tyranny. It's the definition of morally devoid, but which I guess I would call tyranny. But I tend to have a very extreme view when it comes to how much liberty a citizen should get. But then again, it's where I agree with Barry Goldwater that extremism in the defense of liberty, as long as it's in the defense of liberty, is no vice. So, Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and end it right here. Just remember that don't treat my map or my model as a point prediction. Yes, I know the numbers given are a point prediction, but treat it as an area prediction. And look at it and basically limit the states you view as competitive to those that are in the tilt category and the lean category. All right. Sound good? I want to thank you all for watching. Hope you had a nice day. I'll see you guys next time. Take it easy. Bye-bye.